Kevin Steele's coming back to the Tennessee Volunteers football program as a defensive assistant. What does that all mean for the Volunteers? Hi, everybody. I'm Marky Billson, and really, I don't know if it means a whole heck of a lot. It means they hired a defensive assistant after an ESPN report came out saying that they weren't going to hire any assistants. That might be something that tells us that, maybe the impending investigation isn't quite as bad as we thought. If there was a hiring freeze and, well, now they've made a hire, I guess there's no hiring freeze. It also, as some have theorized, could mean that Steele is the coach in waiting when the sword of Damocles falls over Jeremy Pruitt, which, to be brutally honest with you, if that is the case, it's the most Phil Fulmer move ever, and we're going to get to that in a second here. But I don't think it has nearly the impact that some of the moves of announcements of transfers have been made. Now, one of which, Sean Schamberger, defensive back for the Vols, who didn't play much last year. I don't know how much of a difference he would have made in the 3-7 season, but he had a good 2019 and played only 3 games in 2020. He was going to transfer away, and he says, I think I'll come back to Tennessee. That's good. He's a good defensive back, so okay, there's a player that, assuming he stays healthy, the Vols probably don't need to replace in the starting lineup. A lot of it is made of Wanya Morris going away, offensive lineman, tackle there, left tackle. And to tell you the truth, I've said this before, I've said it again, I'll say it again, you can always find another tackle. You can always, and I know he was a 5-star player. What does that mean? Really? Haven't we now, after Bryce Brown and, after Chris Walsh 30 years ago, really learned that, okay, those recruiting rankings, take them with a grain of salt. Have them with the same amount of weight that these top 25 polls for next year, the ones that have Clemson #1 and North Carolina in the top 10 and all that. Take them as seriously as that. I don't know what else you can say. The one departure that I think has a real impact on the Vols is the absence of Ty Chandler. And I know Chandler may not have run for as many 100-yard games as you would have liked. Of course, he split time with Eric Gray, and I know that Gray became more of the feature back than Chandler, but it was a 1-2 punch, and Chandler has been a productive player throughout his Tennessee career. Chandler averaged 4.6 yards a carry last season, which isn't bad, but most telling, he's going to North Carolina. And North Carolina, in all of Power 5 last year, had the 4th best rushing offense in the country. So he is going to a place where they are going to ask him to run the ball, which is something that he wasn't asked to do more than Eric Gray last year. Again, strategy of the Tennessee Volunteers, how do they use their talent? Evidently, Mac Brown doesn't think they used it all that well. He is a very nice pickup for the North Carolina Tar Heels. So there you go, going to a basketball school, which Tennessee, of course, is becoming more and more looking like. Now, this being said, let me just talk to you a little bit about the idea that Kevin Steele was hired to eventually replace Jeremy Pruitt when the probation comes, if the probation comes, which I think the hire may have been, how bad is this investigation? And I'll tell you, there's a chance, although I don't think it's much of a chance, but there's a chance that the investigation, was about, the self-reported violations that the Vols reported within the last 24 hours. Stuff like Phil Fulmer coached offensive linemen for 30 seconds in 2018. Meddlesome? Yes. Why that's a violation for NCAA standards? I'm not necessarily sure. There was a positive trend. One of the things also in transfer news was the Vols are picking up a quarterback. Hey, they could use one. After all, 2 of them have transferred away, Jared Guarantano and JT Shrout to Washington State. A quarterback cradle, if you will. Washington State over the years has produced some nice quarterbacks, so it'd be interesting to see if he can improve his game with the Cougars and Mike Leach anymore. But they've developed quarterbacks with other coaches other than Mike Leach. But anyway, we'll see how he does up there. Kind of an interesting thing. And also an interesting commentary that, remember, it was 3 years ago that John Currie, if he had been retained, if he hadn't been fired as the athletic director, it's pretty much established that Mike Leach, now the head coach at Mississippi State, would have come from Pullman, Washington to Knoxville, Tennessee to coach the Vols. Instead, it took him a couple of years to get to the SEC, but he went to Mississippi State instead. And why did he go to Mississippi State? Because Joe Moorhead, who was hired over current Vols head coach Jeremy Pruitt, was fired by the Bulldogs. Now, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Coaches 3 years ago would have gone from Pullman to Knoxville, but now quarterbacks are thinking that Pullman is a better place for them than Knoxville. Now, I'm not a Jared Guarantano fan, but that's just not a positive step for the Tennessee Volunteers program, that's where he would transfer to. A place where coaches were going to come from to Knoxville just 3 years ago. One person now thinks that's a better place for him. Interesting commentary. JT Shroud, of course, going to Colorado. So Vols need a quarterback. Why not Hendon Hooker of the Virginia Tech Hokies? He had lost his job late. Stats nice. Not a lot of picks. Evidently a good scrambler, that sort of thing. So Hendon Hooker comes from Virginia Tech to Tennessee to, we presume, battle it out with Harrison Bailey for the starting quarterback position next season. Okay. Let's take a look at this, though. The idea that Steele has been hired heir apparent for Guarantano if it all breaks down. Again, if Hooker's coming in, the assistant coach that brought him in is Jay Graham. Now, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Graham's one of the guys that missed that Texas A&M game when the story came out that there was investigations on the Tennessee Volunteers, and some people tried to link one with the other. And, well, if Graham's going to go, if he's this dirty coach, remember he did have a show cause this past year from his tenure at Texas A&M, then what does that mean? I mean, it would seem like he would be retained if the quarterback that knew him is now coming to Tennessee to play quarterback for the Tennessee Volunteers in some capacity, either starter or primary backup in 2021. So again, now the investigation is going on in Tennessee. Maybe it didn't look all that bad. I don't know. And the idea that Steele comes in, sure. Well, I mean, here's the deal. We got to believe that Phil Fulmer is bringing in a new coach under the rug, and considering how he became the head coach back in 92 and how he became the athletic director in 17, yeah, we can say this, but this is what it asks the Tennessee Volunteers. It first suggests that Fulmer, through a probation that would wreck the football program, would be kept on as athletic director. Now, that's a hard thing to believe. And that has to believe that the Vols would ignore some just as what it once was, but, Jeff Fisher's expressed interest. Whereas just a few years ago they were in the FCS, and that's the sort of rebuilding question, the sort of guy that would go to Tennessee. But it says, no, we're going to have Kevin Steele in the fold so we can elevate a coach who was 9-36 at Baylor to be the head coach of Tennessee. Just not getting it. Sorry. you'd hire Jim Chaney. I don't know, maybe Jim Chaney's dirty if that's what the investigation pulls out. We're talking about a coach makes $1,600,000 a year. And Steele's signed at a little over $400,000 a year. So you would basically have to minimum multiply Steele's contract by 5 times, which is a lot of money that you weren't intending to pay to your coaching staff after you're buying out. And I know the idea is that, well, we'd fire Pruitt for cause, but trust me, there would be lawsuits and all sorts of things. I mean, Frank Schiano was suing the Vols for money. I don't know what the status of the lawsuit is, but just consider that for a second. And you'd be taking this one coach with head coaching experience. Yeah, one game as an interim coach, but we want it. And saying, no, you're not going to be our head coach. This guy was 9-36 a generation ago at Baylor, part of a streak of 13 straight losing seasons. That's just going to turn it around for the Tennessee Volunteers, who have had 8 losing seasons the past 2 years. And you see what that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't think Ken Steele was hired to be the next head coach of the Vols. If he was, it's the most vulnerable move of all time, and it indicates that the AD who hired the coach that's getting on probation is coming away scot-free. That makes no sense. However, I do think that, yeah, they needed a new defensive assistant. What with, the firing defensive line coach after 4 weeks last year. Oh, here's a guy who used to play for Johnny Majors. Let's bring him in. That's pretty much it. Folks, if you like this sort of commentary, the honest opinion of the Vols, not fanboy commentary, which you get so often everywhere else. Read a story that was total fanboy just earlier. I don't know how. Anyway, you want the real straight skinny, you come to me. You read me on Medium, and also you subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're getting subscribers every day, and you can see my Vols page, a lot of great interviews in the past, and a lot of current content as a podcast. We'll get back on here, I'm sure,